Chipmunks. Welcome to the AMP Cycling Ride Review Series. I'm your host, Angry Chipmunk, and today we're in Italy taking on a classic mountain pass, Paso Pordoi. This route is available on Rouvy, so let's get right to it. This is a moderate length route, but one that's pretty long for a mountain pass at about 27.5 kilometers. The whole ride averages just 4% and will max out at around 10%. These numbers are crazy low considering that there is just over 1,000 meters of elevation gain here. There are 3 Strava segments included on Rouvy, with 9 on Strava itself. They are mostly small sections of the route, with a couple being the whole pass itself. Now the first couple of kilometers here are mildly up and down, with peaks around 8 to 9%. And the first segment is San Giovani. It's at the 2-kilometer mark, is 1.75 kilometers long, with 102 meters of elevation gain, averaging 5.8% and peaking at 9%. Strava considers this to be a Cat 4 climb. The first half of this climb is fairly mild. There's a short pinch pretty quickly, and then it's 1 to 4% till about 1 kilometer to go. The gradients do ramp up to around 7 to 9%, almost to the end. It's a fairly short segment with a nice consistent gradient though, making it a not very difficult one. Now there's a long section to the next segment of very mild uphill and sporadic pinches. Most of the short uphills are only a couple of 100 meters long and max out around 9%. They all have plenty of fast-paced sections in between them. This makes them a bit awkward to get the gearing right preemptively, but it also makes them fairly easy to push up pretty hard. The second segment is Akenai. It's at the 14-kilometer mark, is just under 3 kilometers long, with 101 meters of elevation gain, averaging 3.4% and maxing out at 8%. Strava also considers this one to be a Cat 4 climb. Again, this segment is a bit of a two-parter. The first half is very mellow, with the gradients ranging from slightly negative to about 4%. Once you turn at the large roundabout, they steepen quite a bit, with lots of 7 to 8%, but with a fair amount of light yellow in between. The segment randomly ends in a corner just before the gradients steepen again. I'm not sure if this is just a segment to denote the small village you pass through or what, but it sure is an odd one. The second half, where it starts to get a bit darker orange, is indicative of what you'll see for the rest of the route. There is a Strava-only segment that appears to be the full pass called Paso Pordoi, Akenai. It starts just before the 16-kilometer mark, is 11.5 kilometers long, with 786 meters of elevation gain, averaging 6.8%. Strava considers this one to be a Cat 1 climb, which tracks for a mountain pass. At the 16-kilometer mark, you'll pass a sign that says Pordoi and Sella. Here's where I'd say we start the pass properly. Pretty much straight away, you'll be seeing gradients around 7 to 9%. This lasts a short distance before the gradients back off to about 4 to 5%. Much of the climb will be like this, where you have a section of steeper and then a section of more mellow. It's probably slower, but I find that trying to maintain a consistent push through the more mellow bits to be a better way to ascend. It's easier than trying to muck around with adjusting your gearing, and that makes the climb a bit easier also. This one isn't overwhelmingly steep, so the gear adjustment isn't as dramatic as some of the other passes. The last segment is Ronda. It's at the 25-kilometer mark, is just under 2.4 kilometers long, with 118 meters of elevation gain, averaging 5%. Strava considers this to be a Cat 4 climb as well. This segment is fully contained within the full pass segment, and as such has zero difference to them. And even though it's the last 2 kilometers of an Italian mountain pass, it's actually not more difficult than the previous part of the ride. There's no need to change anything about how you've been riding the previous 10 kilometers. The end of the segment is the end of the route. And like all mountain passes, you'll be needing a good warm-up and cool-down. I would say to aim for 15 minutes on either side of this one. While the first 2 kilometers of this route aren't immediately into double digits, it's still an uphill with no real possibility to use it as a warm-up. And there's a long way to go to the pass, but it's still almost all uphill. And the ending is the summit, so you'll definitely be needing to cool down adequately. It's not so brutally steep that you'll immediately fall over, so be sure not to skimp on the cooldown here. And as always, I recommend pre-fueling your rides and including plenty of protein with that. This is especially true for the mountain pass as they are much more difficult to fuel while riding. I would say to have plenty of faster acting carbs available for this one so you can easily eat them once you get to the steeper bits. Use that mellower middle section to have 15 to 20 grams in preparation for the main climb. This will help negate the need for too much straight sugar once you're on the pass itself. And definitely follow this one up with a protein and magnesium. As this is a more difficult ride, aim for a higher protein evening meal as well to help keep things balanced overnight. Now, if you've watched any of our other reviews, you will know that I love mountain passes and Italian landscapes more than anything else, so it's no surprise that I absolutely love the view on this one. The Dolomites are particularly stunning as the mountains are quite sheer as compared to a lot of other ranges. And the camera van sets off what appears to be pretty early, so there's plenty of great shots of the sun coming up through the mountains themselves. I'm not sure what time of year this was filmed, but it also transitions really nicely to have snow on the ground once you get higher up into the mountain. There's plenty of smaller ski villages to look at along the way as well. Now, with this being a bit of a longer pass, it took me just under 2 hours to complete on 100% difficulty emulation. With needing both a good warm-up and cool-down, I would say to budget anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. It's not a good one to stop and start again later, so really set aside a good chunk of time to complete it. Overall, this is a beautiful ride that I would definitely recommend for the climbing enthusiast. It's not the most difficult of mountain passes out there, so it's also a really great transitionary route for those wanting to get into the more intense passes. If you're quite comfortable with 700 to 800 meters, this is a good choice to bump it up over that 1,000 meter mark. It's not really great for the newer climber as it is so long and still needs a decent amount of knowledge about when and how hard to push up the pass. If you're already an experienced climber, just do this one anyway. For this route, I give a 5 out of 5. Really enjoyed the longer route through the smaller towns on the way to the pass. It makes for a nicer ride that you might do for real instead of just the pass only. For the climb, 4 out of 5. The smaller climbs before the pass are not that much different to the pass on their own and are really closer to a 3. The pass here isn't too tough with a lot of sections where it scales right back. It's a nice, consistent ride, but not overly difficult. For the view, 5 of 5. Of course, my favorite elements all in the one ride. The biggest drawbacks here are the lack of other real cyclists on the road and the large amount of car traffic. I can't really blame people for wanting to go up the mountain on such a nice looking day, but it does make the view a little bit less than ideal. And overall, 5 out of 5. Definitely put this one in your ride queue. There's lots to enjoy about this one, and it's a nice addition to the Italian Pass collection. Well, that's it for this review, so thanks for watching, chipmunks. Please let me know what you think of Paso Pordoi when you've completed it. I'll leave you to finish the rest of the ride, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks for another review. Until then, ride on, chipmunks, ride on.